There is also a feeling that ordinary people are not in a position to explain this Mukti-skandham. It is the last message of Krishna. Be sure that no opportunity, wherever it comes, will be missed by any one of you. Don't have this kind of a plight which we have described here. Never be indifferent to God. Never be inattentive to devotion. Never be negligent about participating in any kind of a spiritual expositional venture. Somehow you should find time to be present there. Very, very important. It is indispensable in your life. How did Yogi Chamasa conclude his dissertation? It is something very important. On the one hand, it's a very clear pronouncement. On the other hand, it's a very clear warning and also caution. What is that caution? None of you should ever allow yourselves or your family members or those known to you to become a Vasudeva Parankha. What does it mean? A non-devotee, to put it in a simple language, or those people who turn their attention and gaze from the supreme reality called God. That fate should never come. Therefore, what is the caution that we have to take and what we have to ensure? You have to be present whenever there is an occasion where God's excellences, exploits are being narrated or exposed. Very fortunately, we have a number of texts. Our Puranas are quite a large number. We also have Idihasas like Ramayana and Mahabharata. Having all these texts, whenever there is an exposition of any one of them, make sure that you as a human being should necessarily go there and be present. This is something very, very important and indispensable also. To be having the opportunity to listen to the divine excellences and exploits, it is something very important. Don't miss that opportunity. You may be worldly, you may be ambitious, I have nothing to say. You may be a lover of prosperity and also luxury. I don't mind. It does not matter. But with all these, you must also have an abiding note of love and fondness to listen to God's stories and God's excellences. Normally we say excellences and exploits of God. Actually it should be a process of Tattva Kathana. Kathana means narration or exposition. Of Tattva means principles, truths, values and messages. Any kind of an exposition should necessarily convey to the people the values of human life, the goal of human life, the principles and the messages which govern human life, particularly relating themselves to the mind, the emotional mind and the rational intelligence of man. In fact, culture is defined as the art and the other manifestations of the intellectual achievement of a society which is regarded collectively by a large number of people. So in any kind of an exposition you will find, if there is a cultural element, that cultural element is highly rational. It has to be approved by the intelligence, otherwise no culture will ever take shape or will have the power to endure for long. So with all your worldliness, ambition, desires and whatnot, let there also be a definite place in your mind for listening to these truthful expositions. Whenever there are wise people, knowers of truth, very lofty devotees, make it a point to go and see them. Go and show your respect for them, prostrate before them, sit at least for a few minutes before them and request them to tell you something supra-worldly, something about God, something about the soul, something about our dharma, something about moksha and the other items. If you do so, you will find the effect and the fruition will be extremely marvelous. Now Krishna has this to say. It is something very important. Actually this comes later in the exposition where Krishna himself starts enlightening Uddhava from the 6th chapter onwards. Yadrichaya matkathadau jadashraddhastu yah puman na nirvinno nadisakto bhakti yogosya siddhidaha. He speaks about Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. Jnana, Karma and Bhakti Yoga. He defines Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga. I shall come to speak about it later. Now, the Bhakti part which he puts is very relevant. So I thought I will present it to you now. Yadrichaya matkathadau jatha shraddhastu yaf puman. There are occasions when somebody just happens to listen to an exposition, an exponent. There is a devotee who comes here. He is actually a structural engineer who has taken doctorate in the subject. He was telling me, one day there was something like a strike or so. So I had to return from the office. When I was returning from the office, I found that there was an exposition going on in Chennai. I somehow peeped into the place and started listening. He found it so interesting that standingly he listened to the whole day's exposition, maybe about an hour or two. He says from that day onwards, he had a definite interest and a devotion to this kind of a spiritual subject and spiritual exposition. Even now it continues in him. This is what happens. Yadrichaya matkathadau. Yadricha means what? Yadrichikata means by chance. You don't have any preparation, you don't have any resolve, you don't have any forethought, a preparation or anything like that. Something good is taking place. One day let me go there. Simply go there and stand or sit. And then when you listen to it, mat kathadau. Oh, this is something very good, very nice. People are speaking so beautifully about God. What a great concept is this God. We describe God as, I particularly say, Parama Kalyana Nidhi. He is actually a treasure of supreme felicity. There is nothing greater than God in the matter of awarding for you or gracing you with supreme felicity in life, Kalyana as we call it. So this is something very interesting. Nobody is blamed. He is going on praising God and describing a number of exploits and excellences which God has manifested in this world for the benefit of mankind. We cannot think of any human history of this dimension. Suppose a history was written of your grandfather or grandfather's father. First of all, it is not written. Even if it is written, will you ever like to read it? No. It is all human acts. There is nothing very enchanting about it. We will have a feeling of enchantment only towards godly and divine things. You know, the authors who have penned the wonderful scriptural compositions of our country, they were always master minds and master intellects. See, by their pen, they have cut across the fibers of leaves and they have produced a scripture. Just imagine, it has lasted for millennia and millennia. Why? Because first of the relevance they carry, an eternal relevance, and the beauty and charm they have, the emotional elixir which they are bestowing upon the human mind. Then again, the challenges, the persuasions, the compulsions, the impetus they provide for the intellect. For all these things, people started reading, listening and thinking about it, and many imbibed them. After imbibing, they pursued it. After pursuing, they almost perfected it in their life. Automatically, they felt inspired to communicate to the others through beautiful articulation. Like this, Janma after Janma, generation after generation, this wonderful literature in the form of a legacy has been perpetuated in our country. So these people have written something marvelous, wonderful, magnificent and enchanting. Yadrichaya matkathadau jatha shraddhastu yaf puman. Suddenly he picks up attention, a faithfulness towards it, an application towards it, an assiduous application of his mind takes place. Whatever he has heard, he wants to listen to more. And how do you describe him? Na nirvinno nati sakto. He is not one belonging to the category of the dispassionate few. He doesn't have dispassion. The world is ephemeral, evanescent. It is always fleeting. Thinking that it is so, his mind is not picking up any note of strong dispassion. No. Nati satto. He doesn't have extreme attachment, delusional clinging to anything also. So many people are born in this world. I am also born. I also grew. Maybe he gets married. He has some children. All these are all right. But he doesn't have any special identity or clinging towards them. He thinks that like so many things in nature, non-human beings also are there. Similarly, human beings also are there. We have the power of thinking and the power of articulation. Let us use these two also properly. We are not basically different from the animals. So far as external life is concerned, if at all there is a difference, it is our internal life. We must be able to pin and find out the joy the mind alone by itself will be able to deliver, bestow upon us. So this is called an adhyatmic life. So he doesn't have dispassion, he doesn't have excessive clinging also. For such a moderate man, bhakti yogosya siddhidaha. This bhakti yoga, devotional interest, devotional clinging, devotional pursuit, devotional fascination and enchantment, that is what is going to fructify in him. Why I said this? You will find that you belong to this group. I am sure that 99% of my audience, all of you are not clinging to the world too much. That is why you are able to listen to it. Maybe you don't have sufficient dispassion also. So you cannot be categorized as the dispassionate. You cannot be categorized as the extremely attached kind, the delusional people also. You are interested in listen to. After all, it is Sreemad Bhaagavatam, a great scripture. I want to listen to it. Let me know more and more of it. You know how many letters are coming to me. The English audience is not writing much, but my Malayalam audience is writing quite a number of letters. All of them say, Swamiji, we have had an altogether new insight about human life. Many things which we should have known and we failed to know, now we are able to know. So the entire life is transformed. I have only one question to raise. Why did you not appear before us 15 or 20 years back? Invariably this sentence is put by many people. What does it mean? I am sure you belong to this mediocre category or middle category. You are not extremely the nirvana group, the dispassionate group. You are not the kami or the passionate group also. But you are one in whom everything is there in a moderate measure. So for such people, bhakti yogosya siddhidaha. This devotional pursuit alone will be able to give fulfillment, have effect. Yadrichaya matkathadau jadhashraddhastu yafpuman na nirvinno nadisakto bhakti yogosya siddhidaha. So what is it that I have to emphasize? Never be a Vasudeva Parangmukha. Never be a non-devotee. Non-devotee. Never be one. Try to believe in God. Accept the hand of God in everything. Be a humble devotee of His. Love Him from the core of your heart. Learn to rely upon Him. Rest upon Him. Let the whole of your life be besmeared with devotion. Besmeared with devotion. Everything should be covered with devotion. Always have a sense of surrender, a sense of resignation. The earth is revolving not because of our might, our wish or our will. Only when the earth revolves, the day and night repeat for us. The week comes to pass, the month passes, the year again revolves. So everything is supported by some supreme power. Rely upon it. And imbibe from that reliance as much as you can. Your efficiency will increase. Your skill will get enhanced. Your perseverance will also strike higher and deeper levels. There will be no idleness in you. There is an important work others are afraid to take up. You will say, I will strive to do it with confidence. This is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. The history of humanity clearly shows that the devotional hearts have been able to reconcile with even the greatest of misfortunes and calamities rather in a lighter manner. On the other hand, people who do not have devotion, they are not able to reconcile with many of developments in life. So it gives you a constant note of reconciliation. The resilience is more. The heart becomes broader. The mind becomes larger. The intelligence becomes sharper. I tell the students, if you take interest in this kind of a subject, spend some time, take interest, then you will find that a subject which you take 1 hour to read and understand, you will be able to read and understand it at least in 40 minutes, if not 30 minutes. So every student is going to benefit. We had a couple of children for the past 2-3 days in the ashram. I had spoken to them some of the highest messages of spirituality. The girl told me, how did you come here and how are you going back? Her name is, she said, Swamiji, I came here as a mustard and I go from here as a mountain. This is what she said. And her brother told me, I certainly have decided to have a new order and a discipline in my life. Whatever I have missed so far, in spite of my association with you, I am going to mend for it. This is what he said. Yadrichaya kathadau jadashraddhastu yah puman na nirvinno nadisakto bhakti yogosya siddhidah. So always practice at least this bhakti yoga, devotional yoga. It does not matter what you otherwise do. Now this dissertation is over. King Nimi turns to the assembly and he makes a question. What is that question? Kasmin kale sa bhagavan kim varna kidrisho nribhihi namna va kena vidhina pujyade tadihocyadam. So every time he raises a question and an answer is given. Generally it will be covering a particular subject. Now he wants to know, Kasmin kale sa bhagavan. Saha bhagavan, that great God, goodness gracious, that most high, the supreme reality. Kasmin kale, in which period of time, in which kala, kim varnaha kidrisho nribhihi, what kind of a color or a feature or a shape was attributed to God by the people? Kidrishaha nribhihi, how did they conceive of God? God is after all a concept. Concept of what? Concept of the human mind. How many times shall I say this? God is a concept. It is a word that we have coined. Just like we have said dog, animal, buffalo, cow, horse, etc., God also is a word. While all the animals have their specifications, God also must have His characteristics. Who will define them? We ourselves will have to define. So in our approach to God, we have ample freedom. We have ample choice also. We have to be highly discreet and discriminational. So he says, Kasmin kale, time is endless, endless. In the endless course of time, in what period the Supreme God was considered to be of what shape, what color, what special features and characteristics by nribhihi, by human beings. Namna va kena vidhina. A number of names are there for God. See, we have Vishnu Sahasranama consisting of 1000 names. Similarly, there is Shiva Sahasranama and Lalita Sahasranama. All are there. So many names we are able to identify God with. So we are attributing them. They are all attributes made by the human mind and the human intelligence. So by what name? Kena vidhina. But by what kind of prescriptions, procedures, rules and formalities? Poojyade tadihocyadam. Poojyade. The same God is worshipped at different periods of time, in different ways, giving different names, attributing different qualities, different shapes, etc. And with various procedures, the same God is worshipped. This clearly tells us that God is a concept. And this concept of God is conceived by the mind. And the mind has to explain everything about God. Do you agree or not? Do you agree or not? It is we who have said God. So we have to explain what our concept is. Not only that, if there is a question of realizing God, what do we mean by God realization and how to achieve it? We must be able to clearly say. And luckily and fortunately, right from immemorial times, from the ageless past, right from the Anadi Vedas, we have got ample descriptions about God. Not only that, we have clearly specified that this is the methodology, the process by which you can approach divinity. And when you do so, these are the types of crossroads that you will meet. The nature of progress will be like this, and ultimately, as the quest proceeds from your mind and heart, the fulfillment also will be dawning in the same mind and heart. Anything about God is an inner pilgrimage. It proceeds from your own mind, traverses through inner distances, inner terrains, inner heights, inner declines, etc. Ultimately, you have your fulfillment. You are able to spot the inmost Lord, your own self, in the end. So I would like to describe that it is a beautiful Tirtha Yatra of the buddhi and the mind transpiring within your own body. Now I would like to spend a little time and take you to the concept of time. What is this time? Our Puranas speak quite a lot about it. Many of you think that the Puranas consist of only cock and bull stories. It is not so. They are dealing with grand concepts, grand realities, grand things about the whole world. Their one subject of discussion is Sarga and Visarga. Sarga, what are the basic constituents of the creation? And what are the special and developed and widely spread out constituents? Basically, we have Panchabhutas. And from the Panchabhutas, we have so many other derivations. Say our Bhumi is one of the Panchabhutas. And in the Bhumi or on the surface of the Bhumi, what all are you finding? Have we conducted a complete research into the earth and do we know what all it contains? No. So we should understand that our Puranas are not just stories. They are actually scientific dissertations. They go into the constituents of creation and speak to us quite a lot. In that, time is a very important factor. Our time calculations are incredibly huge. Incredibly huge. This is what you have to understand. So when he asks, Kasmin Kale, in which period of time? Instantly my mind is filled with untold imagination. In which period of time? So how many periods does time have? When did it begin? Was there any timeless situation? Is there going to be an end of time? What is this time? All these ideas come to our mind. I would like you to think now and then about the basic constituents of the world and how are they interrelated. One thought process that I have to present to you on the basis of our own scriptures is that we have three fundamental constituents. What are they? Space. We are seeing an endless dimension around us. And within the endless space, you have a number of heavenly bodies and planets. Our earth is a very, very small planet. If you can compare it with the more huge planets and bodies, the earth will not be even of the size of a mustard. The distances to some of the stars we cannot calculate. It's calculated in the form of light years. There are some heavenly bodies whose light has not reached the earth even now. This much our scientists are reporting. If scientists can report now, our ancient scriptural thinkers, could they not have found out something in the matter? So let us be very clear. Space is there. Only when space is there, different objects can be in the space with varying distances between them.